Okay, we're still on page number 3. And this little bit is going to be talking about pathogens. It's just a little introduction into pathogens. Then we're going to come back and we're going to do an activity in class. We're going to do a card sort. And then after we've done that card sort, you guys can go off and learn about the 2 different categories of pathogens that you need to know about. But before we do that, there's a bunch of words that we need to think about. So if you want to pause, maybe with a pencil, write down some ideas, what you think the difference between these 5 words are, because I would like you to be able to use them in answers. So you've got microorganism, pathogen, disease, infection, and transmission. So give it a pause, see if you can come up with some answers, and then when you're ready, start back again. Now I'm hoping you've gone for a pause, and we're coming back and we're going to talk about microorganism. Now this one, nice and easy, we break it into 2 parts. You have the micro part, meaning really small or microscopic, and organism. So it's a living thing. Okay, so this is a very, a very small living thing. If you look at the actual definition that I've written here, it's a microscopic organism, especially a bacterium, virus, or a fungus. I have an issue with putting viruses in here, so I'm going to take them out. I'm going to take them out of my notes too, because I don't like them being in there. And you'll see why by the end of this. All right, so pathogen. Pathogen is a word that you really, really need to understand because it comes up in text in the questions and you should be able to use it well. So to be considered a pathogen, the organism essentially has to cause harm to the, it doesn't say it on here, but it says it on my notes. It has to cause disease. So it's a microorganism. I had this changed, but it must not have saved. So a microorganism that causes a disease. And what do we mean by disease? It means that it gains entry into your body or into a host. It colonizes your tissues, so it takes over a part of your body. Then it resists your defenses, so it blocks your immune system, and it starts to cause damage. Yeah, so that pretty much, that cause damage is the disease. So that's pretty nasty. So let's just have a look at the last 3 words here: infection, disease, and transmission. So infection, disease, and transmission. Oh, that's fun, isn't it? So you are considered infected if the pathogen gets in and it colonizes your tissue. Now, what does colonization mean? Colonization means it can multiply within your body. So it's not good enough that it gains entry. It needs to be able to then multiply in your body. So, for example, if you got COVID-19 on your hand by going to the supermarket and touching something really dodgy that someone had been touching, then you could wash that off and you wouldn't get an infection. It's only if it can gain entry into your body, which is why they say stop touching your face. Yeah, if you stop touching your face, then you are not allowing it entry into your body because it can't get in through your mouth, your nose, or your eyes. Your skin is a really good barrier, and we'll come back to that. But if it's just on your skin, you can wash it off and you won't become infected. The next word is disease, and that's essentially a malfunction. When we go back here and we talk about pathogens causing damage to the tissues, it's that damage to the tissues that really makes something a disease. And the last thing is transmission. What does it mean to transmit? It means that you can pass that pathogen from one person to another. Now, I would really like to have a big chat to you about R0 values, but they're not quite on here. So we'll see how we go. And if I get time in lesson, I'll talk about R0 values. All right, just to show you transmission, this is pretty gross, but when you sneeze or you cough, you create a huge number of droplets. And this is the way that we actually think that COVID is being spread. And each one of those little droplets, there could be thousands and thousands of viral particles or bacteria or fungus. So if you sneeze and you don't cover your sneeze or your cough with your elbow, or you don't cover it with a tissue or something like that, you can create this giant cloud. Now, what happens with this is each one of these droplets is going to fall down and it's going to settle on a surface. So you don't want that to happen, and that's why we clean all our surfaces, and that's why you clean your hands constantly as well, just to make sure that this transmission doesn't happen. So when we were talking about how does it actually cause disease, we talked about them gaining entry and colonizing and resisting your defenses. But some of the ways it can do it is it can just barrel through. So you can get numbers, sheer numbers, and so they just multiply and multiply and multiply and multiply and multiply. And every time they multiply, they're going to damage and push apart your host tissues. They can also do things like break down your cell membranes, which is pretty nasty. But that's a way that they can cause the disease and the damage in your body. The next way that they can cause damage in your body is that they can produce toxins. Okay, so they can go, if they're a bacterium or a fungus in particular, they can secrete chemicals or toxins, and each one of those is going to cause a different effect. So cholera produces a toxin that causes diarrhea. It causes your intestines to not reabsorb, your large intestine to not reabsorb water, and so the water stays in your poo, so you poo out watery poo. Yuck. But that's caused by a toxin. So that's just a couple of the ways that a pathogen can cause disease and a little bit of an introduction. I'm going to get you to stop. We're going to go back into class, and you are going to sort out the diseases into 2 or 3 groups, and or 2 to 5 groups, maybe more, that I give you, and you're going to justify your response. See you soon.